Hi everyone, good evening. Good evening everyone.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening everyone. Hi Watsal.
Hello, sir.
So we are joining for few more guests to join in. Uh, we have Madhav and Bhumi as well on board today. Bhumi is there, I guess. So
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
hi, good evening. Good evening. So just waiting for Madhav as well to come in. Okay. So we are on the last leg of our preparation, wherein we'll be talking about the strategy to be taken for the last 90 days, that is last 3 months, which is of course very important from CLAT's या फिर ALET exams point of view, because this last leg of preparation will basically land you where you want to be, I mean to your dream NLUs. तो आपके जो strategies हैं, आपके जो steps हैं, जो आप basically अभी इन 3 महीनों में पढ़ने वाले हो, mocks देने वाले हो, strategize करने वाले हो, सब कुछ पे डिपेंड करता है where will you land at. ठीक है. तो सो इट इज वेरी ऑब्वियस कि ये जो 3 महीने हैं इसकी इंपॉर्टेंस आपको अभी से रियलाइज करने की जरूरत है, बिकॉज eventually whatever strategy we make now in terms of our daily routine, in terms of the mock analysis, in terms of the covering the backlogs of various areas, in terms of covering our overcome our weak areas, how to fortify our strongest area to further boost up the score, everything that is the main agenda of today's webinar. So we have Bhumi Sharma, who is from NLS Bangalore, on board with us. She appeared for Clat last year only and cracked, for NLS Bangalore. Welcome, Bhumi.
Hello, sir. Hello, everyone.
Then we also have Watsal with us, who appeared for Clat 2 years back and made it to Nalsar, Hyderabad. Hi, Watsal.
Hello, sir.
And then last to last year, Madhav made it into the NLS Bangalore writing the CLAT exam. Welcome, Madhav.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, hi. So, what we are going to do is कि अभी initial half an hour, 20 minutes maybe maximum, I'll be discussing the strategy, the agenda, for the last 90 days कि हमें किस तरीके से strategize करना है, everything in terms of mocks and preparation. And then we'll take up the Q&A round with all our toppers who will give their insights, their strategy for the last 3 months. इन्होंने कैसे overcome किया अपने weakness को, कैसे tension को दूर किया. A daily routine लेंगे इनका एक एक करके. So we'll start with, and wherever required, obviously, I would like all three of you, guest speakers, to give your insight as well. There can be some inputs from your side as well, right? So I think we are good to go. Let's start with the webinar. So when we talk about CLAT exam, obviously I'm talking about the 5 sections: English, GK, legal reasoning, logical reasoning, and quant. But when I talk about these 5 sections, and especially the 2 sections, which is GK and current affairs and legal reasoning, ये दोनों वो section है which comprise of the 50% of the weightage of the entire paper. And therefore, it becomes very, very, important for us, imperative for us to score at least 50 combined in these two scores, in these 2 sections. अगर 50 से कम का स्कोर आता है जीके एंड लीगल को मिला करके, तो थोड़ा सा सिचुएशन डाइसी हो जाता है, बिकॉज हम ओवरऑल स्कोर तब 100 क्रॉस नहीं कर पाएंगे इफ वन इज एमिंग एट द टॉप एनएलयूज, राइट? बट देन हैविंग सेड दैट, डिपेंड्स ऑन द लेवल ऑफ द डिफिकल्टी ऑफ द पेपर. तो स्टिल आपको कम से कम 45 का स्कोर तो इन दोनों सेक्शन में स्कोर करना ही करना है, इन ऑर्डर टू कम टू अ सेफ जोन वेर इन यू कैन एंटर इनटू एन एनएलयू. रिमेनिंग व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट इंग्लिश, लॉजिकल रीजनिंग एंड क्वांट, क्वांट इज समथिंग जहां पर काफी स्टूडेंट्स ऐसे होते हैं कि नहीं, क्वांट इज नॉट माय कप ऑफ टी, बट स्टिल बिलीव मी, यू हैव the live examples in front of you. If you ask them, they'll definitely come up with one thing: no quant means no top 3 NLUs. I believe I'm right. Yes, है ना? टॉप 3 एनएलयूज में अगर आपको जाना तो ऑब्वियसली क्वांट के बिना नहीं हो सकता, तो क्वांट तो आपको करना ही है, तो मिनिमम 6 का स्कोर तो टारगेट करके चलो, है ना? उसके बाद धीरे धीरे हम इसके स्कोर को इंप्रूव करेंगे. एंड देन लॉजिकल एंड इंग्लिश आर समथिंग विच आर कोरिलेटेड, बट देन इंग्लिश और लॉजिकल में स्कोर करना भी आसान है इफ यू प्रैक्टिस डेली. लॉजिकल वैसे सबसे ट्रिकी सेक्शन माना जाता है इन क्लैट, बिकॉज one cannot be very sure of the answer because there is no perfect answer in critical reasoning as it goes, but then it is always possible to find out the most appropriate answer, and the right approach is through elimination. English में direct answers होते हैं, so बहुत ज़्यादा difficult नहीं होता. So what should be the benchmark scores as of now? When I say for English, at least 18 अभी consistently आपको maintain करना है, but then जैसे आप इसको achieve कर लें, you should target 21 and above. राइट? सो इंग्लिश में अभी कम से कम 18 तो लाओ हर बार कैसे भी करके, एंड देन मूव इट टू 21 एंड अबव. देन कमिंग टू जीके एंड करंट अफेयर्स, योर टारगेट स्कोर फॉर नाउ शुड बी 22 एंड देन इंक्रीज इट टू 24 एंड अबव. ठीक है? देन कमिंग टू लीगल रीजनिंग, 25 शुड बी द बेंचमार्क स्कोर जो अभी आपके लिए होना चाहिए. देन स्लोली एंड ग्रेजुअली इंक्रीज इट टू 28 एंड अबव, एंड इट इज पॉसिबल इन लीगल रीजनिंग एज वेल. Finally, coming to logical reasoning, abhi 18 ka score, given the fact that you might have some sets of analytical reasoning as well, and then slowly, gradually move it to 21 and above. And finally, quant, मैंने जानबूझ के आपको मोटिवेट करने के लिए 8 लिखा है ताकि धक्का मार के कैसे भी करके हम 6 तक पहुंचे, बट एटलीस्ट 8 को टारगेट करो, एंड देन स्लोली एंड ग्रेजुअली ट्राई टू इंक्रीज इट बियॉन्ड 10. सो इफ आई एक्चुअली क्लब द स्कोर्स जो मैंने अभी का टारगेट रखा है 18, 22, 25 and then 18 and 8, it is somewhere close to 85 to 90 का स्कोर. और जैसे ही मैं हायर वर्जन पे चला जाता हूं तो मेरा स्कोर ऑटोमेटिकली 100 प्लस होता है. सो दैट इज व्हाट वी आर टारगेटिंग एट, है ना? आइडियली हमें पहुंचना कहां है? 100 प्लस के स्कोर्स में. सो व्हाट शुड बी द स्ट्रैटेजी व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट इंग्लिश एज अ सेक्शन? Editorials must be read at any cost every day. Whatever newspaper you follow, maybe it is The Hindu or Indian Express or maybe Times of India for some, आप उनके editorials को definitely पढ़ लिए, because that is where from the the passages are selected. वो आर्टिकल्स के थ्रू ही पैसेजेस मिलते हैं, एंड इट विल टेक केयर ऑफ योर क्रिटिकल रीजनिंग एज वेल, इंग्लिश एज वेल. एडिटोरियल्स पढ़ने से हमारी वोकैबुलरी भी कहीं बहुत तरीके से एनहांस होती है, योर रीडिंग स्किल्स गेट इंप्रूव, यू आर एबल टू फाइंड आउट द मेन आइडिया. तो उसके लिए कुछ स्ट्रैटेजीज है जो मैं आपको बताऊंगा, लेकिन एडिटोरियल्स इज अ मस्ट टू कवर. ठीक है? सेकेंड, एवरी डे मेक इट अ प्रैक्टिस. मुझे 5 पैसेजेस प्रैक्टिस करनी है, बिकॉज क्लैट एट द एंड ऑफ द डे इज अ टाइम बाउंड एग्जाम. So 25 minutes is the actual timer which we take for English as a section when we talk about CLAT exam. So इसके लिए आपको क्या करना है? 5 passages in 25 minutes सॉल्व कर लेना है. सॉल्व करने के बाद डू द रिगरस एनालिसिस. व्हाट वेंट रॉन्ग, व्हाई डिड इट गो रॉन्ग, why the correct option is taken as the most appropriate answer choice, and on what grounds are the other options getting eliminated. देखो, इट इज वेरी ऑब्वियस इंग्लिश में और सीआर में, मेजरली सीआर में होता है वैसे, कि आप दो ऑप्शंस में ज्यादा कंफ्यूज होते हो. तो यू शुड बी एबल टू फिगर आउट द ग्राउंड्स ऑफ एलिमिनेशन, कि जो गलत ऑप्शन था वो गलत क्यों हुआ. ठीक है? देन कमिंग टू vocabulary part. So I believe that most of you अभी तक already अपने vocab के एक register maintain कर रहे होंगे wherever you come across new words which you feel आपको उसका meaning नहीं पता था. So maybe it is from the newspaper analysis जो आप लोग करते हो, editorials जो आप पढ़ते हो, या भी डेली क्लास में आपके जो vocab के words आ जाते हैं आपके पास through passages, थ्रू द vocab क्लासेस, तो उसमें आप एक रजिस्टर मेंटेन कर रहे हैं. दैट इज व्हाट आई बिलीव. लेकिन अभी से भी एक आपको प्रैक्टिस करनी है. वॉट एवर एडिटोरियल्स यू आर गोइंग थ्रू, उसमें जितने भी वर्ड्स आपके पास आ रहे हैं जो आप अवेयर नहीं हो जिससे, तो उस केस में आप उन वर्ड्स का मीनिंग मेंटेन कीजिए. प्लीज प्लीज मेंटेन a register wherein you write down all the words, taking the synonyms and antonyms of those words, so that by the end of 3 months जब आप आओगे CLAT, with the moment you need a CLAT exam, you will be in a position to interpret the lines very easily if your vocab is good. ठीक है? तो मेंटेन करना है vocab register अभी से. Then When I talk about the RC section in CLAT exam, majority of the questions you will feel is either direct questions or else majority of the questions belong to the genre of tones, main idea and figures of speech. So ये वो areas है जहां पर आपको definitely work on करना है if somebody is not comfortable in finding out the tone of the passage या फिर figure of speech identify करना हो तो उसकी practice बहुत कीजिए अभी से. It is very very much required. And then figuring the main idea is of course very very important because on that line only there are many questions to follow. तो इसके लिए आप क्या कर सकते हो? इसके लिए what you can do is you can test your comprehension. So whatever articles you go through in the editorials, cover the heading. ठीक है, आप आर्टिकल्स को पढ़िए. आर्टिकल को पढ़ने के बाद ट्राई टू गेज द मेन आइडिया कि इस पर्टिकुलर आर्टिकल का मेन सेंट्रल आइडिया क्या है. If after going through the article you are able to gauge the central idea and it aligns with the heading, मैं ये नहीं कहता कि word to word copy हो जाएगा, but if it aligns with the heading या somewhere close to the heading, that means you have made your comprehension appropriate. अच्छा comprehension level आ चुका है आपका. तो अपने को वहां तक पहुंच जाना है कि मेरा जो मेन आइडिया मैं गेज कर रहा हूं वो कम से कम आपके हेडिंग से कहीं ना कहीं मैच होना शुरू हो जाए. And for the ones who are already good at English, let's say we are talking about those students, who are scoring 18 and above, but then they would like to increase their score to 22 plus every day, every time. So आप क्या कर सकते हो? Start going through sources like Aeon, Nature Journal, टाइम्स ऑफ इंडिया के आर्टिकल्स भी पढ़ो, डाउन टू अर्थ, टेलीग्राफ पढ़ सकते हो, स्वैडल पढ़ सकते हो. ये सब सारे वो ऑनलाइन वेबसाइट्स हैं, ब्लॉग्स हैं जिसको फॉलो करने पर यू कम अक्रॉस वेरियस जॉनरे ऑफ पैसेजेस. ठीक है, वेरियस जॉनरे ऑफ पैसेजेस.
हेलो सर, हेलो.
है ना? सो यू शुड डेफिनेटली, yeah, so you should definitely try to go through the articles which are there in this kind of websites and blogs. This would definitely help you. Okay, so this is something which I would say that is ideal for the last 3 months for English preparation. But one thing is very important here, the second point which I said, please ensure that you are actually practicing 5 passages for 25 minutes daily. Okay, definitely you have to do this and do the analysis. Please look at the wrong options and why did it go wrong. This is what you need to understand. So I'm moving on to the next section now, that is GK and current affairs. Now, the moment we talk about GK and current affairs, lot many questions come in our mind. Which sources to follow? Do we need to actually go beyond what we already have as materials with us? When I talk about GK and current affairs, you have your GK handouts, you have your GK mantra, that is monthly compendium, then you have 20 questions everyday basis, then you have the daily news analysis video, then you have the class notes and the mock passages. So there are so many sources to cover. But still some of the students feel that, do we need to actually go beyond these sources? Do we actually go for some other sources like Disti IAS, or maybe we talk about other GK compendiums? No, not required. So the right strategy for GK and current affairs as of now, I would recommend is go backwards. Rather than starting your current affairs from Jan, Feb or March, you should start with August abhi, because we are at the end of August. So start with August. Whatever sources you have for the month of August, cover it. Once you are done with August month, go to July, then go to June, then go to May, right? So it is very important, go backwards, because the more chances of coming, of the questions coming from current affairs is for the last 6 to 8 months. Jan, Feb, March is important, but not very important. So you'll have to cover the main news, main articles जो भी हैं आपके Jan, Feb, March के. But then obviously April onwards you will have to go through each and every news which is possible. ठीक है? So go backwards. So what are the sources you need to cover when we talk about GK and current affairs? Number one is your fortnightly handouts. So you have 2 monthly handouts. Okay, you have to cover that very rigorously. Then your GK compendium, which is GK Mantra magazine, which is full of information, various articles, and the question bank at the last. Then you have DNA notes, which you would be making regularly, I believe. So I'm under the assumption that once you look at the DNA, or when you actually take the DNA, class at 6:30 p.m., you definitely make the notes from it, whatever seems very, very relevant from Clat's perspective. Obviously, the 20 questions which follows the DNA are those questions which the subject matter experts believe that are the most relevant questions from examination's point of view. So one job is done for you. 20 questions in a day ideally means 500 questions of a month. And when you talk about the questions right from January to November, you will be having a question bank of around 5,000 to 5,500 questions. That makes, a big source for you, wherein all relevant questions for CLAT is there in one go at one place. So this is something which will definitely help to boost up your scores in GK and current affairs. Again, mock passages are very important because the passages which are selected from in the CLAT mocks are obviously those passages which the subject matter experts, again, they feel that are relevant from examinations perspective. So what I would suggest is that don't only stick to the 5 to 6 questions which are there in the mocks. Rather than that, please ensure that you are actually doing
Hello,
a
hello.
holistic research. I would request everyone to please mute yourself. So what I was saying is that when I talk about the mock passages, don't just get restricted only to the questions of the mocks, but then do a research. Whatever questions you feel that are possible, taking the historical checks as well as the current affairs, you do an analysis, do a research on it, and take complete list of questions which might be there in the CLAT exam. Then of course, it is very much necessary that take monthly tests. So you have various sectional tests, offline and online both, on monthly current affairs, and then there are tests on static GK. So whatever things you cover, test yourself by giving those test papers. Now, static GK is of course very important when we talk about topics like modern history, when we talk about polity, when we talk about economics, various scientific organizations, ISRO, DRDO, international organizations are there. So please ensure that you are actually covering all the portion of static GK very, very, holistically. Aapko obviously, the faculties must have given you an idea about the topics which would be there in terms of static GK. Go through it surely. Very, very important. Avoid at any cost any irrelevant topic which you feel that it is not at all important from CLAT's perspective or ALAT's perspective. It is not only 90 days to CLAT, we are also talking about 90 days to ALAT now because there is just 1 week away from CLAT. So when I talk about irrelevant topics, just finding yourself in a vicious circle of many topics and then trying to cover as many topics as possible, wherein you feel that 50% of the topics may not actually make sense is just a wastage of your time, nothing else. So you should be actually sticking strictly to the relevant topics of CLAT and ALAT. And if at all you have problem in identifying those areas and topics, please consult the subject matter experts as soon as possible so that they really guide you on those relevant topics, right? If you feel that something which was not covered in the class, but then you came across an article, you have some news articles which you feel that may be relevant, you get consulted with your subject expert. Very, very important from ALAT's perspective, if I talk about important days and dates, awards, appointments, schemes, various military exercises are there. You need to cover all these things, one-liners, which very soon we will be coming up with some PDFs so that it can be shared with you and you can actually go through them on monthly basis. Okay? So make sure that you cover all these aspects because these are some things which is very, very important when I talk about ALAT as an exam. Okay? Now, the most important aspect of covering GK and current affairs is the revision strategy. I read August. I covered the entire July month, but then I kept on covering other months as well without keeping a track on the revision. So it is very obvious once you cover 2 to 3 months and then you proceed, it is quite possible that you may forget what you actually, learned when we talked about the monthly affairs. Yes, static GK. So it is very, very important to revise them thoroughly so that you are able to retain. So one thing when we talk about GK or current affairs as a section, don't read. It is important to learn, right? It is not about reading GK. It is about learning GK. And when we do the revision is all about recalling the facts rather than again going through the lines. Revision is not about reading. Revision is all about recalling, trying to recall, trying to remember. Okay, these are the facts. These are the points which I need to remember. So whatever topics you are going through, you remember all the facts regarding it, and then you try to revise. So revision strategy, which I feel would be most appropriate for the last 3 months, is just remember 3, 7, 15, 30. On the third day evening, revise everything which you covered in the first 3 days of that month. Then on the seventh day, revise everything which you covered in these 7 days. On the 15th day of the month, the entire 2 weeks which you covered, and then on the 30th day, that is last day of the month, in case if it is 31 days, then on the 31st day, revise everything which you covered during the entire month. This will help you to revise important topics again and again, and therefore it will help you to retain these informations very effectively, right? Then coming to not very good. I'll take up questions at the last. I request every one of you to avoid asking questions, Abhi. Let me come up with a strategy, and then we'll take up the questions. We have experts today with us who are real time NLU call getters, so definitely they'll help you in those. Chalo. Then coming to legal reasoning section. Legal reasoning section, obviously, first of all, get very, very thorough with the basic laws. That is tort, contract, BNS now, which is crime, and constitutional reasoning, that is constitution. ये आपको बहुत अच्छे से कवर कर लेना. Make sure that you are covering the aspects, each and every aspect of these basic laws. Then, of course, once you go through it, once you have covered all the fundamentals of this, come to the miscellaneous topics like family law, surrogacy, prevention of unfair means, POXO, Consumer Protection Act, and all. So make sure that you are covering all these things. But then again, it is very, very important to cover up the current year legal developments. So I'll just give you some examples. It is not that these are the list which you need to cover, but when I talk about current legal developments, I am talking about the landmark judgments made by the Supreme Court of India. So say, for example, this year we have State of Tamil Nadu versus Governor of Tamil Nadu. If you are aware of that veto, veto power being exercised by the governor. So this is something which is related to constitutional reasoning. Then when we talk about the SIR, that is, intensive report which is being covered अभी बिहार के इलेक्शंस को लेकर के. This is very, very important. So Association for Democratic Reforms versus Election Commission of India, which is, in the area of electoral transparency. So you can definitely go through it. Abhi it is an ongoing case, by the way. Then the 31-year property dispute, which is Bangalore ancestral property related to Hindu succession, property rights. Permanent alimony, which is upgraded from 20,000 to 50,000 per month. That is something a part of family law. So what I am trying to say you is there are various areas like family law, property rights, succession laws. Then we talk about the electoral transparency and all, constitutional reasoning. Identify these areas of legal reasoning and then look at the judgments given by the Supreme Court of India in these areas. So you have to cover these judgments definitely. Very appropriate to consult your legal expert in this case. Then there are new bills and amendments. A very recent one, which I'm sure that everyone is aware of, the Online Gaming Act, right? So you should definitely know each and everything about this particular act. Coming to Constitution 130th Amendment Bill, wherein the proposal to remove the PM and CMs are there. If any of them is detained for 30 days for serious offenses. This is again of the new one, which is very, very important. Then there was Government of Union Territories Bill, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code में कुछ amendments आए हैं. You have to go through all this, right? What should be the strategy for the legal section is, again, once you are done with the fundamentals of basic laws and miscellaneous, and then again, obviously, I would believe that in every week, you would be covering at least 2 current legal developments and the new bills that should be covered, at least 2 in a week. At the same time, you need to practice 6 passages on regular basis, keeping yourself a timing of 35 minutes followed by the analysis. The analysis is only about what went wrong in the passages while you were solving, so that your accuracy level gets developed. Okay? So 6 passages, 35 minutes timer is the ideal time to be taken when we talk about legal as a section. And from ALET's perspective, I would recommend practice 10 principal facts-based questions daily. If not daily, if it is not possible, so at least 2 or 3 times in a week, at least practice questions which are based on principal facts-based, right? Then coming to a topic which is logical reasoning, wherein we say that there are fundamentals, but then when you actually solve the passages, there are no fundamentals working. So this is something which is very tricky about this section. So when we talk about critical reasoning as a section, you need to be very, very comfortable with the components of argument. And when I say the components of argument, you should be very, very comfortable with premise, assumption, and conclusion. Then Once you are through with this, go for inferences, strengthening and weakening of arguments, course of actions, because these are those areas where you see questions of critical reasoning from. Majorly, you will see almost 70 to 80% of the questions from this. For the last 2 years, Clat paper has seen some direct questions regarding critical reasoning and some questions of decision making as well. But then you need to go for this. Again, when we talk about flaw, paradox, parallel reasoning, these are more important from ALET's perspective, but one can expect 1 to 2 questions in CLAT as well. So when I say that you need to be very, very comfortable with this, so start practicing with arguments based questions first. Practice 10 questions on an average almost every day, which is a small argument based questions, which may be of the genre of conclusions, inference, strengthening the argument, maybe identifying the flaw, resolving the paradox, and so on. Okay? So 10 small arguments. And then, of course, the strategy for CLAT would be 5 passages on daily basis, keeping a timer of 25 minutes, and then going with the analysis. But here I would suggest you, when you do the analysis and when you find out the correct option, also look at very, very rigorously why the other options were eliminated. For CR, I would say elimination is the key rather than going for the perfect answer. Focus on learning the approach of elimination. As I said earlier, that elimination is something which is a key to crack CR. Okay? Now, whatever experience we have for the past years papers, you would see that most of the passages in the logical reasoning section comes from the areas of social issues, gender bias passages, current issues which are majorly, related to tech, science and tech and all, AI, for example, then we economy, environment, education. These are the core areas wherein you find passages from in critical reasoning. So if you have articles related to these topics, be very thorough with it. Then, because last year we had sitting arrangement question, so this year too, we can expect few questions which are based on analytical reasoning. So when I say analytical reasoning and when I talk about CLAD exam, it is quite possible that once again you may have a set or two from topics like coding, decoding, analytical puzzles like solving the puzzles based on distributions and matrices. Maybe you can talk about sitting arrangement, a circular one or a linear one, or you talk about ordering of things, ranks and orders. So these are the areas which you should practice for analytical reasoning, because this would eventually help you for ALET as well. And then why I'm asking you to solve questions of syllogs, that is logical deduction, syllogisms, it is at least 10 to 15 questions in a week, so that you are also very well prepared for a ALET exam. Because if you would go through the previous year's papers, ALET almost will have 10 to 15 questions every year from syllogs. So I cannot ask you to, practice this kind of questions at the end after you cover your CLAT exam, after you are already done with your CLAT exam. So it is very, very important for you to cover ALET portions as well. Okay? Now coming to Quant, the section which majority of the students run away from, and the section which students who are good at maths are able to capitalize on. So what should be the strategy for Quant? सबसे पहले, very very important, the very first target is covering areas of percentage, profit loss and discount, ratio and average. These are the 4 topics which you should cover very very thoroughly, because if you're able to cover these 4 topics, at least 6 to 8 questions are there in your hand for sure. 100% you will be able to crack 6 to 8 questions. This is sure, right? Once you are done with the fundamentals of these chapters, then take the next leap, that is time, speed, distance, mensuration, set theory. And of course, we can also talk about simple interest and compound interest. Sorry to mention, I forgot to mention here, but simple interest, compound interest is also there. But this should be in the next leap. But apart from these chapters, I am sure that you would not find any kind of set looking at the previous year's papers pattern. But then it may come up with surprise, I don't know. But at least go through these chapters very, very effectively. Do the one-liners. So practice one-liner fundamental questions, but not chapter by chapter. Once you are done with the chapters, once you are done with the fundamentals, I would recommend you to take 3 to 4 questions of every topic every day, so that you are in touch with the fundamentals of each and every chapter. This will help you to remember the formulae, remember the concepts of that particular topic, and you would be able to apply when you go through sets of CLAT exam. Then it is very much required 10 to 15 minutes of calculation practice daily, because this is something which actually increase your time. And you know, proportionately affects your time management. Quant, maximum you have to devote 15 minutes because there are 12 questions, two sets of maths majority of the times. So 15 minutes, 12 questions, until unless you are very, very good at calculations. You have the habit of writing everything, as rough work and then calculating. Many of you still do 15 plus 18 bhi likh karke rather than directly 33. Or sometimes people actually multiply by writing in the, and not doing approximations. So this is something which you need to practice. This 10 to 15 minutes of calculation practice daily will effectively save your 15 minutes in the CLAT exam. For sure, if you are attempting all the 12 questions, this will help you to save your 10 to 15 minutes in the CLAT exam, which is very, very required. And then again, you need to solve two sets of DI daily, keeping a timer of 12 to 15 minutes. So when I talk about this, you have to devote 1 hour. I mean, practicing 1 hour of fundamental questions, calculation practice, and then two sets of DI. ये total 1 hour का agenda है which you can cover up. ठीक है? Very, very important again, strictly avoid using calculators. Very much required. Don't use calculators while you are actually practicing at home or in the class. Avoid using calculators. Then only you would be able to solve things. Now, let's come to the strategy of the last 3 months. And then we'll come to some insights. But before moving on to strategy, I would like to invite my speakers now to give their insights. फटाफट से. So, starting with Bhumi.
Hello everyone. Hello sir.
Hi.
Um, so I hope you all are doing well. So firstly, I agree with everything that sir said. Each and every topic, I believe more or less I covered it the same way. If I talk about English, it started with a lot of reading, editorials, and magazines. If I talk about legal, okay, if I talk about GK, firstly, considering GK is a very big factor in the exam, I would say GK requires constant practice in opposition to कि I would cover it by the end of the month या फिर एक दिन में सब हो ही जाएगा. You'll have to understand that GK is much more of a continuous practice. It requires efforts from you every day. So for me, it was the DNA and then the fortnightly wali magazines that helped with everything. Because in the end, GK mantra is just a composition of each and every topic that you're doing. It won't be able to cover the minute things that you are able to cover in daily sessions. So for me, the DNA sessions and the 20 questions, they were something that helped me a lot. And that is exactly how I revised because at the end of the month, considering you're revising it every day, you're revising the backlog and then you're doing the monthly magazines, the weekly magazines, you know by the end of the month what topics are important, what topics need more focus, what are your weak areas. And when you have that sort of clarity in a subject like GK, which is very subjective, that helps you a lot in your overall practice. And that also eases up on your stress and gives you a lot of confidence. Now, if I talk about legal was a good subject for me. It wasn't as if something that gave me problems, but if I remember the things that if even if I talk about to even if I talk to all my mentees today, or I remember what my friends used to say during the legal practice, the thing is, legal essays they are sometime what do you say? The comprehensions they are long, so it requires a good reading practice. Moreover, if you're not aware about the subject at hand, sometimes it could give you a complex. See, I don't know what the subject is. कि passage क्या बोल रहा है तो मैं questions कैसे answer करूंगा. So the thing with that is you'll have to firstly obviously read. If I talk about now you have BNS, you'll have to read torts, contracts. So even if you're able to cover the basics and what would you say, the most important topics of it, you are way far than ahead. Okay, because I know many people they don't do that. So minute effects, minute efforts from your side, they play a very good game in the long run. So legal के लिए, I don't have any such strategy, but what I would say is that you need to be strong on your reading skills along with your reading time because legal is a big section. It requires a good portion of your time, and if you're not able to catch up with it, you would fall back. CR, I would go with English. You'll have to be very strong on your CR skills. You need to know not only what is the right answer, but also why the wrong answer is wrong. Apart from that, you would require constant analyzing, even of your previous mocks. That I would suggest for all the sections. Ki whatever mocks you have already attempted, you need to go back to them. You need to understand whatever you did wrong. आपका पहला mock हो या दूसरा या 10th or your 20th, you'll have to understand the question which you did wrong, whether it is in GK or CR. Why was it wrong? What could have been the right answer? What is the right answer? You need to understand that. because that is what comprises of analyzing your mocks. If you're not doing that, then you are actually very behind. Because I know many people, even here, many people who used to do that, and I know how good they are. So I believe analyzing your mocks is something that goes without saying. Now cons. Now I was once again I was comfortable with cons because I had maths, and that works a lot. But apart from that, Clat maths is not something of a very high level. So even if you're able to complete your basics and you're able to get the right skills, or what would you say, the right strategy to do maths, then you are very ahead. Because 8 to 10 marks in a paper like Clat, where every mark counts, is a very good margin. 8 to 10 marks mean you are moving not only colleges but tiers in your NLU rankings. So Quant is something which I would suggest that you should do practice every day. 5 to 6 questions or one passage, what would you say? Is very, very amazing. That is something I don't think you should fall back on, because that is Quant is make or break section. I believe that. So yeah, if you have any questions, I'd be open to that.
Okay. Thanks, Bhumi. So first of all, let us take the say of Madhav, and then we'll move on to Watsal. Yes, Madhav.
Hello everyone, am I audible?
Yes, you are. You are. Please continue.
Okay, so from the last 2 years, if you like sit down and analyze the CLAT question paper, you'll get to know that CLAT is somewhat of a surprise that on when you go on in December and when you will give your CLAT, it will come as some sort of surprise. For instance, last year everyone was hoping that the question paper would come a bit difficult, but again it was a bit eccentric. In the year I gave CLAT, that year also the question paper was not easy, it was not difficult, it was very eccentric, if I would say. So one thing which I would tell you all is that be prepared for such kind of eccentricness. Be prepared for like some sort of X factor which may come in CLAT. Because look, at the end of the day, there will be many problems on the day of your CLAT examination itself. And there can be many problems. For instance, like I had my center in Subodh, that's a place in Jaipur. And in Subodh, what happens is basically there's too much traffic, there's too much noise, there's too much the invigilators are not helpful at all. So you should start giving mocks in other surroundings in which you are not comfortable to give mocks. So for instance, give mocks in like the room of your home where everyone passes through that room. And this really helps a lot because this gets you out of your comfort zone. So look, it's very easy to like get closed in a room and solve mock in all quietness. But at this stage, when only 90 days are left, I suggest you guys that start giving mocks with like varied factors. Start being prepared for everything. At this point, you should have a written sort of a guideline ki हाँ, अगर the mock is very hard, then how will I approach the mock? If the mock is very easy, then how will I approach the mock? Another thing I want to say is that uh, if it's very hard or if it's very easy, you have to keep one thing at the back of your mind that it's hard for everyone because I don't think that anyone is doing some sort of very super extraordinary sort of preparation that it won't be hard for them. If a mock is hard, it's hard for everyone, and you don't have to spend like the first 10 minutes fearing over ki ab kaise hoga. So don't do this because this is one thing that I did. Okay. Now, speaking about practice, so at this point, there are two avenues to practice. Like we were given some practice booklets during this period called the RSB. I don't know if you guys will be given that, but do one thing. Uh, every day of a week, you either have to solve the RSB or you have to uh, you have to uh, solve a mock. So, for instance, let's say today I solved like 5 passages of English, 3 passages of QT, and 5 passages of CR, and so on. So I don't need to give a mock today. If I gave a mock today, then I don't need to solve that booklet. So do like this. What I did was that one thing I want to say is that analysis is like extremely important. If you are not analyzing a paragraph after you have solved that paragraph, then there's no need to solve that paragraph in the first place. What I did for analysis was I made an Excel sheet, and on that Excel sheet, I can share the Excel sheet with you guys also. But on that Excel sheet, I wrote down my sectional score. I wrote down the accuracy in each section, and I also wrote down the mistakes that I did in the mocks. So, for instance, all of you guys make some generic mistakes and you also make some specific mistakes. So, first, you need to work on your specific mistake. For instance, agar this question is wrong, then why is this question wrong? Why am I choosing option B over option C? So, you need to like sit down and put your brain over why am I doing that mistake? Secondly, there are some general mistakes like I forgot to read no in the question. I forgot to like read whether is it a question of strengthening or weakening. So for that, you need to have a general strategy. If there is some keyword in the question, I have to underline that yes, it's saying no, so I have to circle the word no. So there should be an analysis of mocks and paragraphs on two level. Firstly, this macro level analysis must be there. This is something I learned in NLS that first you have to make a macro analysis. Ki generally इस mock में what things am I doing wrong? Like I rushed through the mocks. I was very silly. I did many silly mistakes. I did not give a good time devotion, time management. So those are some macro mistakes. Now there are micro mistakes. Ki this question ka this GK question, I don't know this concept. In logical reasoning, I'm not good on the assumption wala part, the paradox wala part. So I need to learn specifically about that. So you need to do like a in-depth mock analysis. I remember that Vishal sir used to tell us that if you are giving mock for like 2 hours, you need to analyze it at least for 3 or 3.5 hours. So do this, and I think you will start seeing changes if you analyze your mocks अच्छे से itself. Last thing I want to say is that personally, my own preparation was very heavily newspaper based. Like I don't know about other people, but I used to read newspaper by heart for like 1 2 hours every day. So what you should do is like newspaper is one of the best sources to like practice your CR, your English, your legal, your GK, everything. So you get down, you read the Indian Express or the Hindu, or uske saath you just keep some sticky notes or some sort of marker with you, and when you read the newspaper, you underline what you are reading. And when you are reading the editorials, you put a timer on the editorial ताकि you get the time practice also. Basically, what I'm saying is कि ऐसे कुछ you don't have to make an issue out of it, but just read the newspaper very carefully and just try to grasp in knowledge as you are reading. You should not do blind reading that मैं पढ़ रहा हूँ and nothing मुझे कुछ समझ नहीं आ रहा. I'm not able to understand anything. Words are just I'm just reading words. You don't have to read. You have to like learn and understand the newspaper. If you do, and I think that will surely lead to some results.
Okay, that was great, Madhav. Thank you so much. Now I would invite Vatsal to come up with his points.
Hi everyone. I would like to thank those who've spoken before me. I very much echo what they've said. So, how I would keep it, I'll keep it brief. So about the strategy, I think that what I in hindsight I noticed that I made two jumps. So first is when I joined coaching, and then I started preparing for CLAT. I started going to the classes, and my mock scores improved by a little bit. That was the first jump. Now the second jump that you make is probably the last 90 days of your preparation. That's where your scores will actually improve substantially. So for me personally, I remember a mock that I gave in the end of August. I probably scored around 60. But then when I actually got into the grind of the last 90 days, I substantially increased my scores to say even 90 or 100 in the mock tests, as the pattern was in my time. And secondly, I would also say that if you guys are prepared, if you guys are doing your CLAT, your 12th class along with your CLAT, then I think it's the right time to stop focusing on your 12th at all, because that will come again. You'll have time after CLAT to prepare for that. So you can leave your academics from school aside for some time or start giving them very less attention. And I would also like to again stress about the mock analysis aspect of it. If you haven't already done this, start keeping a diary where you have all your mistakes from every single mock that you've given collated there. And what you do of that diary is that you review it whenever you're free in your pastime. You look at the mistakes that you've made in all the mocks. And after that, for example, if you're going to give a mock, just 30 minutes before that, do only one thing, look at the mistakes that you made before and how you could, solve them. Like how you could not repeat them in this mock that you're going to give. So like as far as strategy goes, these few things are very helpful with that.
Okay, thanks, Vatsal. So, after having heard all the strategies from the toppers, now let us come to few general strategy which should be taken for the last 90 days, and then we'll take up questions. Okay. So it is very, very important now to identify your weak areas, because if I say that if you need to overcome your weak areas, this is the right time wherein you can overcome. But then after 2 months down the line, maybe when I talk about the mid of October onwards, you cannot talk about overcoming your weak areas. So abhi you have time. So work on your weak areas, try to overcome your fears, and try to improve your score on the weak areas. Very, very important. Then try and cover all the current affairs holistically. That already said the strategy for current and GK, right? September, your target. In the month of September, try to cover August to May, everything, whatever sources you have. Then October, April to Jan, including September. क्योंकि सितंबर तब तक आप कवर कर लोगे, ठीक है? तो सितंबर month will get over. In the month of October, try to cover up all the facts related to the month of October, and then April to January as well. November, October, and at least the first 15 days of November, and the full revision of GK and current affairs, which you did in this 3 months, right? So this should be the target for GK, which is practical enough to cover, I believe. Then 2 mocks per week and its analysis in the month of September. For the month of September, I would recommend you every week 2 mocks at least and the analysis. In the month of October, 3 mocks and then its analysis. But October onwards, I'm not talking in the month of September because some of you are school going kids, so it might not be possible for you to write the mock in 2 to 4 p.m. slot. But then October onwards, I believe that majority of the students would take a step back from the school, like already mentioned by our toppers, and then you would focus clearly on Clat. So in that time, it is possible that you can actually write the Clat mock in 2 to 4 p.m. And why this is a preferable time? Because Clat is going to be conducted in 2 to 4 p.m. slot, right? So make sure 3 mocks per week followed by the analysis in the month of October. And then November, mandatorily, not preferable, but it is mandatory for you to write the mocks in 2 to 4 p.m. slot only. And if it is possible to write the mock on every alternate day. So like Madhav said, let's say that you don't have the mocks with you, but then you have the materials like RBS, right? Rank Booster series, or maybe we talk about the workbooks you have. So what you can do is that you can actually craft a real-time mock by practicing 5 passages of English, 5 passages of CR, 6 passages of legal, maybe 2 to 3 sets of quant, and then solving some questions of GK sectional test. So make it that way that you in the 2 hours you are covering all this and making a mock for you. You are curating a mock for yourself. But then that is to be done on alternate days basis every day, right? And very, very important, very, very important, solve the previous year's papers and do the analysis of this. Okay, GK can be discarded at least for 2020 onwards till 2024, but then last year paper and this year's GK to pura cover karna hi hai aapko. At the same time, solve the previous year's papers. See what mistakes are you going through while you solve these papers, what went wrong, what could have been right, but you out of your silly mistakes, maybe, yeah, out of your attitude of jumping या rushing through the lines, आपने गलती करी है, वो mistakes avoid करना है बिल्कुल, ठीक है? Then at least 1 sectional test of each section every week in September. Then 2 to 3 sectional test of each section every week in October and November. Consider every mock as the real Clat examination. Now this is the right time to feel that whatever mocks you are writing, you are actually writing the Clat examination, and then creating a real-time simulation. Like Madhav said that sometimes you are in a center wherein lots of disturbance takes place in terms of noise, maybe in terms of attitude of the invigilators or anything, whatever the case is. So it is better that you start practicing in those environments as well. Okay? Now, when I talk about considering every mock as the real Clat examination, your ultimate objective is to attempt at least 110 questions in every mock now, and trying to maintain an accuracy level of 85%, and then slowly and gradually moving to 90% accuracy. This is very, very important. This is possible when you are actually keeping a log of your errors. So like Watsal said, keep a log of your errors, take the diary, maintain a diary, write all your mistakes, and then before going for the mock, before 30 minutes, read your mistakes. The subconscious mind will eventually trigger off and help you to avoid those mistakes, right? Then maintain your error logs and mocks and learn from your mistakes, which I have already said now. Again, very, very important. You people have a tendency to use your mobile phones or maybe smartwatches while you write the mock and keep a track on your timings. But then you should be aware of one thing, that you are not allowed to carry these things when you write the CLAT exam or elite exam. Therein, you will only be allowed to carry your analog watches, the wrist watches. So please, आप पूरा का पूरा फोकस अब जो टाइम मैनेजमेंट है, start doing your time management with the help of these watches only, right? No need to keep mobile phones or any other electronic devices in front of you wherein you can keep a track of time. Okay? Start practicing few mocks in little noisy environment too. This is what already they have covered, right? Sit for 2.5 hours at a stretch whenever you study. Now, many students feel will little exhausted, mentally exhausted when they come to the fourth section or to the fifth section. So it is because that you don't have a practice of studying for 2 hours or 2.5 hours every day. So when you start sitting at a stretch, you build on your sitting capacity, and then you actually force your mind to be capable enough, to active enough for the entire 2 hour stretch when you write the mock. So the idea of sitting for 2.5 hours at a stretch is to make you comfortable writing the mock for 2 hours, because it is a rigorous exercise of 2 hours without a break of a single second, right? Very, very important. Avoid sleeping during the afternoon hours. 2 to 4 is the time wherein you need to make yourself efficient like anything, because that is the actual CLAT and relay timings. So avoid sleeping in these hours. Try to maintain 100% efficiency so that जब आप CLAT का एग्जाम लिख रहे हो और ALET का एग्जाम लिख रहे हो, you would be comfortable enough to write your paper. And of course, it is very, very important. Give 1 hour to yourself. Until unless you actually give yourself 1 hour, whatever your hobbies are, pursue it. Your body, your mind also needs rejuvenations, right? So इसके लिए आपको अपने हॉबी को परस्यू करना जरूरी है. This is what I've already said. I always keep on saying to my students, whether we talk about these toppers who are sitting here smiling, keep थोड़ा थोड़ा स्माइल भी आ रहा है फेस पे शायद, and the students of the classes. So make sure कि आप अपने हॉबी को परस्यू कर रहे हो, ठीक है? Now let's come to the questions round, wherein I'll be asking, I'll be sharing the PPT at the last for the screenshots, ठीक है? Abhi, let us come to the questions one by one. So, pehla question. How did you divide your last 90 days for the CLAT preparation? The last 90 days, ठीक है? This is the question which I'm asking. So, anyone who would like to come up with the answer for this?
May I
Yes,
say?
Bhumi. Yeah.
Okay. So 90 days, that would be September, October, and November, right? So in September, as much as I remember, I started with completing my syllabus firstly, because I remember I had a few legal topics to cover. So I started with completing all the syllabus, all the quant topics which I had doubts in. So I started firstly with completing that. Then I knew all the weak areas where I had to focus on, right? Because even I had maintained some sort of an error notebook where I used to write whatever I was weak in, wherever I needed more practice. So I started focusing on my weak areas and strengthening all the basics, right? And alongside all of this, it was my GK revision was going on. So that needs to start now if it has not already started. But regardless, GK practice, GK revision should start now already. If I talk about October, then you'll have to up the number of mocks you're doing. October should be the time where you're doing at least 3 to 4 mocks every week. And that should also include your analysis of those mocks. Because without analyzing any mock, you're not actually doing any benefit to it. So October should include mock analysis along with, once again, if you have any weak areas, you'll have to finish them up. And alongside that, revision of GK. Constant GK revision that should keep on going on. And the final 30 days, it should only be mocks, analyzing your mistakes, and GK revision cycle. Now, when I talk about GK revision, it should include monthly GK, because now you cannot go daily note wise, because you cannot cover all your daily notes. That would be 30, 40, 50 pages. So monthly notes, however, you have encompassed them along with your class notes. That would be more than enough, considering now you're only doing revision of it. And every now and then, when there are any inclusions to a particular topic, then you can include them alongside. And one more aspect which I would include would be your last 10 days of the practice, which should include light reading. Every now and then you read something to keep up with the practice, important GK topics for revision, and rest. Alongside your practice, you should realize it is very important for you to have a mental break from the practice. As much as important CLAT is for your life, for your career, for your college, your mental health should be a focus. It shouldn't be that you are too busy with it. It shouldn't be you are overburdening yourself. You need to realize that at the end of the day, it's just a paper, and you'll have to come to terms with it. No matter what the result is, I hope you all go to your dream NLUs. But keeping reality by our side, you'll have to realize that at the end of the day, it's a paper, and whatever happens, it would happen for the best. So.
Hello. That was great to take it from Bhumi. If anyone has any questions with regards to 90-day strategy. I'm
Sir,
stuck in the bar of 40 to 60. I understand it's low, but how do I cope up with it? I'm sure that I'm capable of scoring at least 90. So the guy says that he or she, because I can't identify the name, is capable of scoring 90, but then stucking in the bar of 40 to 60 guy scores. How to cope up with it? Yes, Madhav.
The thing is that at a point in giving mocks, everyone gets stuck in their scores. Like I not if I'm not wrong, then during mock 12 to mock 30, 31, I did not score more than like 70, 75 in any mock I gave. And I was like, yaar, ab to it's not happening. And I was negative all the time. But just remember that it takes just one mock to change everything. And in mock 31, I think if I'm not wrong, I scored like 87 or 88, and I was super happy. And because of the confidence that flowed in, after that, in every mock, I scored more than 80, 90, 70 sometimes if the mock was difficult. So you need to understand one thing, that it's okay to be stuck sometimes. Uh, what you can do on your level is that you can go back and analyze the mock again and again. And somewhere in the discussion, Vishal sir said that don't just look at the question which you did wrong, but also look at the question which you did right. Sometimes what happen is that some questions get correct because of like flukes or like because of your luck. So you need to get to those questions and see that what was I thinking during that time in the mock. Understand that you need to orient your analysis which you're thinking, which you are doing while you're writing the mock. So you need to get to the root of everything. Ki, haan, why did I think this? Why did I mark this option? What was I thinking during this mock? Was I shaky? Was I like scared? What was happening to me? And let's say what happens to many people is that during giving mocks, they become very nervous and they have like sweat in their hands. And due to that, they are not able to solve mocks. And many friends like this. So what you should do is that you should get to the thing that it's just a mock at the end of the day, yaar, and it's not that big of a thing. If you just do the analysis correctly, you need to have a note diary that, okay, these are the general mistakes that I'm making in every mock. You should, okay, whoever this person is, do one thing, take last 10 mocks, take the answer key of those mocks and write down all of the mistakes that you did in those mocks. That first write down the macro mistakes ki ha is mock mein time was not management, and in this mock I became very nervous. Write general mistakes like this, and then you write specific section wise, question wise mistakes ki okay, I'm not able to solve like paradox questions, I'm not able to solve that. And then work on those mistakes, because until you analyze your mock, until you sit with the mock for like 3, 4 hours, then it would not help. So try to take your last 5, 10 mocks and write all the mistakes in a diary. And then in the next mock, when you give, read those mistakes before you give the mock.
Okay, thanks, Madhav. Look, I'll tell you one thing. One who are stuck in the scores of 40 to 50, let's say. First of all, try to benchmark your scores in each and every section. Now, let's say that 40 to 50 is stuck over. That means you are scoring something, comparatively in all sections, I would say, on the lower side only. So what you need to do is that keep your target scores by increasing by 2 to 5 marks in every section for every mock. Challenge yourself. So obviously that is only possible once you do the analysis. What went wrong, you are able to gauge it out, and then you keep avoiding repeating those mistakes. So increase your target scores every mock you attempt. Try to increase your number of attempts for every section while you go on with the frequency of mocks, and then try to increase your correct attempts. So जैसे जैसे आप अपने benchmark scores को बढ़ाते जाओगे वैसे वैसे eventually you will increase your overall score also. So that is something which will definitely help you to improve your total score. Now, coming to some more questions. Best score, okay. Okay, I'm going to the question once. Now, again, a reversal question is there. Ki, let's say that you are stuck in the scores of 40 to 60, but then you need to increase to 90. Now, there are some questions. There is a question that I used to score in 80s and 90s, but now it has dropped to 60. So, how to overcome this? किसी ने एक्सपीरियंस किया है इसको रियल टाइम में कि कई बार फ्लक्चुएशंस तो आते हैं at certain phase, the scores gets fluctuated. So sometimes you are scoring, you were scoring in 80s 90s, but all of a sudden you see a drop. But then, to be very frank, the drop is not long, right? It is not consistent. A drop in 2 to 3 mock doesn't mean that you are not doing well. ठीक है, identify what went wrong, why did it go low, then work on those areas and then again try to bring it up. It is not that this will be consistent 60 when you were scoring 80s to 90s. But still, anyone who would like to come up with this? Watsal?
Sure, sir.
Hmm.
This happened with me as well because the first mock that I gave was actually like the best mock for I think the 20 next mocks to come. So I knew that I had it in me to increase to have a good score, but then that would simply not happen for the next mocks that came. So all you have to do is hold fast to the fact that you can score well. Look, I think as Vishal sir said, that just look at the mistakes that you're making and try to not just the mistakes, also the right questions, also just look at the reasoning that you're applying there. What are the faults? And then probably make sure that that does not happen when the next time you give a mock. It's as simple as that, like from my experience at least.
Okay. So what I'll do is that because I am having lot many questions now, but some of the questions is already being covered, right? जो slide मैंने prepare किए. So let's do all the questions first, and then let's go with the questions of the audience, right? So second question now coming. What was your mock test frequency and how did you analyze it? How did you analyze those mocks? Yes?
Should I take that, sir?
Yes, why not?
So with regards to the mock test frequency, for me it was not a set pattern. So I came up with my own, like what exactly do I need? How many mocks do I need to give? So I would for example, if tomorrow I do a mock, I look at what were my mistakes, what were those mistakes about? Is it something that is a silly mistake, or is it something that's very fundamental to the way I'm understanding, or if it is fundamental to the question itself, or a concept maybe. So what I would do is that if I'm making more of those fundamental mistakes, then I would probably need to sit down, solve questions in with a cool head, look at a section, probably give a sectional test, and then like see that I'm not making those mistakes again. And once I'm done with that, I'll give mocks. And if you're not repeating those fundamental mistakes again and again, then I think you're good to go to give more and more mocks. So you can go to the higher limit of like 3 4 or even 5 mocks probably a week, but that is supposed to be reserved towards the end. Like probably for the first 60 days, do not make it more than 3 mocks per week.
Okay. So let's take up the next question. How did you tackle those sections which you found was weak from your point of view? How did you overcome your weak areas basically? So this is a generalized question wherein everything will be covered. है ना? Yes. Bhumi?
Sir,
Yeah, Madhav? Yes.
okay, so for me and like many others sitting here, my weakest section was maths only. So what I did was I remember one word that our maths sir said during the class, that if your job is to like eat a frog, then you should do that the first thing in the day. So that's what I applied for maths was that I woke up and the first thing I did in my day was maths. Like uh, what happened to me was I did very silly mistakes in maths, like mistakes in calculation, mistakes that I didn't even read the questions because like many others suffer through this. I when I saw maths, I used to get like panic for no reason, even if the question was easy. But just try to just make a tier list of all the maths topic that okay, firstly you have some very basic topic like basic arithmetic and calculations and addition subtraction, and then you have DI sets, you have Venn diagrams, and when you like complete all the basic topics, then you should go to the like the harder topics like mensuration and compound interests and topics like these. So make a list of all the topics and say that okay, on mensuration I will solve at least like what 40-45 sets before going to exam. On DI and Venn diagrams I will solve like 50 sets before I go to exam. So that's what you should do. And I would agree that it was a big mistake of my part that I did not solve maths at the starting. And but after September and after August, September, around this time, I started doing maths every single day until it was the day of my exam. So again, it all boils down to the question of consistency over perfection only. That you have to be consistent. And अगर तुम maths की practice कर रहे हो, and if you are doing maths, then you have to do maths every single day, even if it's like your birthday or anything. I did maths on every day. So that's what I would say. I would solve like 2 to 3 DI set, like minimum 3 DI sets every day, along with like revising the basic concepts such as like percentage, etc. So that's what you should do. You should be like consistent in those section in which you are weak. If you are solving a mock, then also that day you have to complete like 2 to 3 DI sets or let's say paragraphs in English or CR. So yes, that's what you should do.
So one good news is that although Madhav has revealed that he was not practicing maths right from the very beginning, but then when he started practicing in the month of September, it was very consistent. So obviously consistency brings in perfection, and that is what he showed, right? And he was able to overcome his fear of maths and then graduate finally score in the CLAT exam. So abhi bhi possible hai. For those students who have not started yet with their mathematics or any other weak areas, believe me, it is possible here from here also you can take it forward from here, है ना? Okay, coming to the next one. What mistakes did you make while during your CLAT preparation or maybe doing the mock analysis and all, and what were the lessons learned?
So I'll take this question.
Yes.
So one mistake that I made and which I really regret is not analyzing my notes at the time, because I believe that the biggest proportion or a portion of your CLAT preparation is your notes, because that's when you're actually realizing how you're applying
Bhumi,
knowledge.
sorry to interrupt. You are sounding a little low, probably because of the you have distanced yourself from the mic. हाँ,
Now, am I audible?
ठीक है. It's okay.
So
Now is it better?
Yes, perfect.
So one mistake which I would start. So one mistake which I really regret is not analyzing my mocks properly, because your CLAT practice, your CLAT preparation, a big portion of it is your mocks. That's when you're applying your knowledge to actual preparation. And when you're not analyzing them properly, that's when you're actually making a very grave mistake, I would say, because you're not able to understand what, whatever you did wrong, why is it wrong. बिकॉज मॉक्स का एंड रिजल्ट इट शुडंट बी कि पिछले मॉक से आपका स्कोर बढ़ा या फिर कम हुआ. इट शुड बी कि द मिस्टेक्स विच यू मेड इन योर प्रीवियस मॉक यू आर नॉट रिपीटिंग देम, and when you're not analyzing your mocks you're not able to understand that. And that I believe is something I did, because for the longest period of time I wasn't analyzing my mocks. My biggest aim was कि पिछले mock से बड़ा score होना चाहिए. But that doesn't make any sense, because your mock, it could be easier or it could be much difficult in the previous mock. But the mistake which you make, if it is constant across your set of mocks, then that's a problem which you need to cover, or I should say um analyze ढंग से, so that you could make sure it doesn't happen in your main practice. Apart from that, another mistake I would say is getting stuck up on a question. And I think most of us, those who gave CLAT last year, realized it the hard way. But if you're getting stuck up on a question which you're not able to solve, say it happens in Quant or as it happened to us in CR, don't get stuck over there. You'll have to understand that it's a big paper. Firstly, you could attempt all the questions. You could just go through all the questions, and if you have the time to come back to a particular question and reattempt it, only then do it. Instead of, in lieu of getting over that question and thinking कि यार सब लोग solve कर लेंगे, मैं पीछे रह जाऊंगा, इस question पे और time दे देते हैं, that would be detrimental to you in the long term, because CLAT is a very timed paper. If you're not able to allot your time properly, then you are at a loss. So don't get stuck up on a question. And I believe that would be my two important tips. That covers a lot from my side.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Look, I'll tell you one thing. The people who are saying that my scores are not improving, what should I do over my weak areas? What are the lessons that were learned while you were analyzing your mocks? I'll tell you one thing. When you are at the score of 40 to 50, no, it is easy to boost up your score to 80, है ना, up to 75. What you have to do is that constant analysis of the mocks you are writing and work on your weak areas rigorously. ठीक है? It will eventually improve. It will eventually improve. देखो, but it takes time. It is not possible that over a night's practice you will be able to improve the score from 40 to 70. So believe me, in the initial 15 to 20 days of strategizing, while working on your weak areas, you're doing the analysis of the mocks and writing down your mistakes, learning from your mistakes, and then implementing the right strategy. This will take time. So give yourself time. Abhi we are 3 months away from the exam, right? So give yourself time. Don't expect too much to happen in a few very few days, that 10 to 15 days में improvement आ जाएगा. No, keep working constantly. Allow yourself a time period of 20 to 25 days now to improve. Believe me, after 20 to 25 days it will shoot up like anything, and you will start scoring maybe in the range of 70, 80 while you were scoring in 40s a week, right? Then again, for the next 2 months you may revise a strategy wherein you are working on your strengths now, not majorly focusing on your weak areas in the last month, and then covering GK holistically, practicing every aspect of the sections, and then writing the mocks on every alternate days, doing the analysis. This will help you. So that will again improve your score from 80 to 90, 95, 98, 99. This way it goes on. 40 से 90 नहीं होगा कभी. It is not possible, right? But then 40 to 60, then 70, make it 75, make it 80, make it 85. Slowly and gradually try to improve your score. Then only you come out of those things, right? Now, how to maintain consistency when mock scores fluctuate. So this is something which is ideally being, we have discussed, because whether it is 40 to 60, 90, then again 80, 60, this is what we have discussed. So now, very, very important question. Majority of the students are having their, half yearly exams in their schools abhi. Some of them will have pre-boards in between, and that many of them will have it during the CLAT exam only, one set of pre-board, maybe second set of pre-board, whatever, in October, maybe in November. Different schools have different criteria. Now, because you people are experienced with it, I would like you to throw some light on this question. How to do this? How to handle this pre-boards and half-yearly exam fear with this CLAT exam preparation? Yes. Yes. Anyone?
I'll take it.
Okay.
So, as it goes for pre-boards, okay, the thing is you'll have to prioritize, because that goes without saying. You'll have to understand that on one hand you have your CLAT and one hand you have your boards. So you'll have to prioritize accordingly. So say there would be people who would have pre-boards 1 month before the paper, before CLAT. There would be people who would have pre-boards during CLAT, and there would be people who would have pre-boards 1 month after CLAT. I believe these are the three major situations. So in case say you have your pre-boards a month before, I would suggest you could easily allot time accordingly. Because see, I would be very selfish in saying that, or I would be above you all saying that that could be a figurative thing. But the thing is, at the end of the day, your college should be your long term and your main goal. Pre-boards are something to ho jayenge na. What should be your focus? If that's something you actually want to focus on, it should be your boards. And after CLAT, you would have a good period of time to actually prepare for your boards. So what I would say is you'll have to prioritize, and you'll have to understand that CLAT takes a bit upper hand over pre-boards. And if you're worried about your boards, you'll have a good period of time after CLAT for that. But regardless, for your pre-boards, I would suggest that you could allot time out of your day schedule, a little bit time for your pre-board preparation, and once again give 60% or 70% of your time to CLAT preparation, because that's what I did. I even had a family emergency during the time. So you'll have to understand that things happen and they go on as they do. You'll have to learn how to prioritize and manage your time accordingly, because if you're not doing that, you'll not be able to think about it or focus on it as you are supposed to. So, regardless, my advice would be, and I believe that would be a bit personalized, it could differ according to the other two of my seniors, or yeah. But I would suggest that you should focus on CLAT, because that would be something that would be a long term goal. Tomorrow, no one would ask your pre board scores, but people would ask, why did you not go to your preferred NLU? So, keep that in mind. And that would be once again my personalized suggestion. I believe views can differ, but regardless.
Okay, so one best part with you people is that because you would be writing your board examinations, maybe those who are in 12th abhi, because obviously this question is relevant to them. So you would be writing your board exams, but that happens in the month of March, and you would be over by your CLAT exam and your elite exam in the month of December itself. So you have ample time to prepare for your boards after that, one thing. And having said that, I don't say you ask you to compromise in your pre-boards. Obviously, you need to go for your pre-board exams as well. But then focusing too much on pre-boards and trying to score more than 90% in pre-boards itself doesn't make sense, because what she said is right, very, very right. You need to be selfish at this point of time, because if you're looking at a long-term goal, something which is related to your career, then it is CLAT first. So focus on CLAT. Don't compromise on pre-boards at the same time. Thoda thoda pada, ठीक है? Study a little, but majorly focusing on pre-board doesn't make sense, because after CLAT examination, you will have ample time for your boards preparation as well. Okay. Then coming to the next one. How to improve the speed and comprehension in passages? Watsal.
Yeah, so this exact point was it was very difficult for me because I read very slowly when I started giving mocks. But then I remember reading I looked up some book online and I read something in that, and that actually worked for me. So what it said was that there are two things that you need to focus on for speed. For speed, first is that we have a certain view. So basically, whenever you look at a line, whenever you look at a sentence, you read a certain number of views, certain number of words in your view. So what you're supposed to do is consciously work on that and try to increase the number of words you're looking at in a particular instance. So your eye movement should be very less, and your eye should capture the whole sentence, preferably. But if that might not be possible in the first try, so you can surely try that. And the second thing is that I think you must have been told this at your coaching as well, but you need to focus on that whenever we are reading something, we tend to say that out loud in our minds as well. You're not supposed to do that. Just read the passage that you've been given, and don't keep on speaking that inside your head, because that will bring your speed down by substantially. So that is something that you should not do. And as far as comprehension goes, I think your editorials will actually, like, editorials are your holy grail for the comprehension. Read an editorial in newspaper, analyze that editorial, what were the arguments that were coming out of it, and you'll automatically see that your comprehension has improved by a lot.
So perfect. So this already I mentioned while I was talking about a strategy to be taken for English and CR as a section. So editorials is a must, because that will eventually help you to improve your speed and comprehension for the passages as well. One more thing, because the passages normally comes out of these articles only. So once you go through any passage which you are familiar with, the topic of which you are familiar with, you mentally become comfortable for it. So that is how your comprehension becomes better, and maybe your speed increases because you find yourself in a comfort area, right? Then how to handle the unknown legal principles. Now, when we talk about legal reasoning as a section, most of the topics are being covered in the class, but then sometimes new topics come in, maybe some principles which we are not aware of, but then you see in the mocks. How do you handle those legal principles? Unknown legal principles I'm talking about. Madhav?
Okay, so you need to realize one thing, that mocks is not like a test, but it is the biggest study material that you can have. So, first of all, regularly, what you should do is that every 1 week, every 2 week, just sit down, take all the mocks which you have. This is what I used to do. I used to sit down, I used to take all the mocks which I have, and I used to go through all the sections of all the mocks and saying कि ठीक है GK में what was something new and legal में what was something new. So for instance, let's say you give a mock tomorrow and some section on let's say international law comes in and you don't know anything about international law. So in that scenario, you just need to make sure that you are reading the section and you are grabbing all the principle from the passage. And look, because at the end of the day, legal reasoning is just some sort of upgraded critical reasoning with some sort of legal principles that you are having. You have to first of all, in legal reasoning, out of all the sections, it is not possible that all the sections is something that is unknown legal principle. There might be one or two passages. So the best idea is that you do not panic and you just sit down and read that very carefully, and after getting them, you analyze it very thoroughly. So I think the analysis wala part helps you to keep getting familiar with the idea that you don't know right now. And it's not about the mock. Again, it's about the principle that you are getting from the mock. So if you go tomorrow, you give a mock and you see some completely new idea, just read that idea thoroughly and solve that as if you were solving a normal random mock. Now, another thing which I would want to say is that in mock, it's not about the test scores at all. Like, yes, scores are very important, but what some people do is like, let's say if they are getting like very less marks, then they will get distraught कि चलो यार इतने कम marks आ गए फायदा ही क्या है पढ़ने का. So you should not do like this. That like I used to do this one to two times that okay, I'm getting a low score, but you need to understand that if I'm getting low score, that means I have much more avenue of analyzing and identifying my mistake. The scope of improvement is so high that you can pick up a mistake in every of your question, and that's a very positive thing. So what you should do is that after you come, you need to analyze the mock, even if you get a low score, even if the mock was hard, even if the mock was easy. So just do that. And as far as unknown legal principle, just sit with the mock and analyze what it was and try to like grasp what is the logical background of that principle.
Okay, great. So next question is, let's take it from the audience point of view only. Some of them have asked few questions now. So the next question which I would be asking is, could you please come up with your sectional strategy in the CLAT mocks and the actual CLAT paper? How did you manage the time during the mock? Matlab, what time did you allot to the various sections? That is what. So sectional strategy for the CLAT mocks and the CLAT exam. And how much time did you allot to each and every section? Yes. So this I can have it from all of you one by one. Not an issue. Yes. So let's start with Bhumi.
Okay. So my sectional strategy, it was very basic. I started with reading comprehension, that is English first. Then I moved on to GK. Then I went to legal, then quants, and then CR. And the reasoning behind that was that after every reading based section, I have a 10 or 15-minute breaks to do a section that does not involve reading. That would be after, say, English, that would be GK. Then after that, I would do legal. Then I would take a break for quant, and then I would move on to CR. So that way, after doing a reading encompassing section, I'm doing something that gives me a bit of break, and then I move on to once again a reading section. If I talk about the real CLAT paper, it was more or less the same. Instead, however, there were a few ups and downs. I would once again come back to the CR wala section where we had the circular question. It was what a table-wise question. I'm not very sure, but
Circular arrangement. Yeah.
yes, circular arrangement. Yes. So that happened, but you'll have to understand it's a paper and then it's CLAT. You'll have to keep this in mind that there would be something that would throw you off the racks, and you'll have to keep that in mind while you're giving the paper. So my sectional strategy, it remained the same. I started with English, then GK, then legal, then maths, and then quants. Nevertheless, it was the last section for me, so it helped me that way. Considering that was the last question of my passage also, so I wasn't able to put much mind to it. Whatever happened. But regardless, I would suggest this, that you should go with the reading section, then go with a section that does not involve reading, then move on to a reading section, and then vice versa. That helps, it breaks the monotony. So that is something I would suggest.
Hello.
I think he's. Oh,
I'm sorry, there was some kind of technical glitch. So, Bhumi, were you done with the discussion?
Yes, sir.
So let's have it from Vatsal then. The same question.
so
Your strategy.
So for me, the sections were like the time when I gave Clat, the sections were a bit different. So I might not be able to guide you guys best on the exact time that you need to allocate. But I very much agree with the approach that like that's what I did, the approach that Bhumi took, that I would divide like what the order of the sections would be divided on the basis of how what kind of skills those sections ask me to employ. So the thing is that whenever you're reading something continuously, you do get tired of that. So it's better if you move to a different section after you're done with the reading intensive section. So if suppose you're starting with English, English requires you to read more on like read more majorly, and like logical reasoning does form a part of it, but it's not that dominant there. So after you're done with English, maybe you can shift to CR that requires you more of logical reasoning, or you can move to Quant, which is completely different. And after that, probably you can shift to say legal. And when you're done with that, maybe go to GK and then attempt the section that was left out of the earlier choice. So I think that strategy does make sense when you're attempting a mock to, optimally use your time and your energy as well.
Yes, Madhav.
Yes, I don't have much to add. I did largely what Bhumi and Vatsal did. Just try not to like strain yourself. Ki, ha, I'm doing CR, then I'm doing legal, then I'm doing English. So try to keep like fillers in between that. Okay, CR, GK, then legal, then maths, then English. And what one thing I personally did was that I used to put maths at the end because at the start, uh, like maths used to take up a lot of time. Like if I used to sit and do maths, then I'll just keep doing maths for like 30 minutes, 40 minutes. So you should avoid doing that. And for that, you can put maths at the end. Again, it's a very like individual choice. But yes, that's what I did.
All right.
I
So
will
one thing which
actually.
I would like to add here is key. Look, every person has their own strategy. So, like you yourself experienced right now, all three of them had a different strategy, but one thing was common. What? Don't keep reading exhaustive sections together. You have to take a break in between. If, let's say, you are starting with English, come up with GK in the next one, or maybe you can come up with maths. If you're starting with legal, again, come up with something else. You have to at least take two sections together and then come up with a filler like GK or quant in between. Taking all the three sections of legal, English, and CR together is something which might prove to be a blunder. But then again, having said that, something it is related to the individual choice. It is subjective. So start with your strongest area. Number one, start with your strongest area out of legal, English, or CR. Then take up the another reading section probably, and then move on to GK or quant to give a break to yourself. Coming to fourth section, I would again recommend to take a reading section, and fifth, go with GK or quant. So this is something which many students follow on an ideal basis. Now let's take up some other question. Uh, Anything you feel that you could have done better or you should have not done, regretted on doing that on that day, not doing that thing. ऐसा कुछ हुआ था, something we should not repeat for our good. This is a good question. Yes, it's purely based on your experience. Again, I repeat, anything you feel that you could have done better or should have not done, and that which you regretted, you know, uh, on the day of the exam, not doing that thing. So, something these students would like to know they should not repeat for their good. Yes.
For me, it was like not being consistent with GK. So I remember that I remember talking to Vishal sir as well about it, that I was not very consistent with how I was preparing for GK in the first part of my preparation. So even in the last 90 days, I was not very properly like down with with the strategy of how I wanted to do the GK. So that really did reduce the score that I actually ended up like scoring in the CLAT exam. So GK is something that you should take seriously. I thought that I will manage with the rest of the sections, and I will probably go a bit light on GK because that felt like a bit hard to me. But again, that's something you should totally not do.
Okay. So someone is asking ki, let's say that you come up with a passage wherein you feel that it should be completed in 5 minutes, but then you are not comfortable with the topic. Maybe it is hard to read. So still, would you like to stick to the time limit, or you may take a switch and then coming back after to that passage or something? This I think Bhumi has already answered. So again, I would like her to repeat it. Yes.
So I would give a very clear answer. Switch, because if you're not able to understand it in the first sitting and going through it again, it is just taking time off the other sections. So just switch, because you've already read it once. There are chances that when you are going through the other sections and when you're coming back at it later, then you would be able to understand it better. And even if you don't, you have already covered up the rest of the paper, so you'll have good enough time to go through it again without any burden on your head ki, oh my god, I have other sections waiting. So just switch and move on to the next.
How would you keep a balance between the accuracy and the speed? Yes.
So, speed wise, I would suggest that you'll have to be very good with your readings. You, as much as you read, it's a very good habit, anyways, with or without CLAT. So, be good with your readings. The more you read, the more your speed. As it goes for answering questions based on your readings, it goes with practice, right? It comes with practice, that is. So the more you practice, the more you'll be able to attempt your questions. So I believe, as you're solving mocks now, you should also keep in mind that you're able to attempt a lot of questions. The more attempts you're making, at least you're able to cover the whole passage, and then slowly and steadily maybe your attempts will also increase. As it goes for managing accuracy with it, so I don't have any static answer for this question, because I believe it comes and goes with practice. The more you're able to practice a section, the more accuracy you are automatically expecting with it. The more you are spending time on a section, you're able to solve the conundrum about how much accuracy you're expecting from it. Because obviously, if you cannot be saying I'm spending a lot of time and a lot of practice on this section and I'm not able to score marks, because somewhere or the other a blame comes on you that you're not able to give the right amount of practice to it. So the problem comes over there, I believe. The more amount of not only time but dedication you're able to give to a section, that would somehow show up in your results.
Chalo, great. Now, how to revise current affairs in GK? And when I'm asking this question, I would like to come up adding few more points. Like there are certain students who would not have covered up their DNA before, or let's say that few months of they started after the month of July. पहले के DNA covered नहीं है. Let's say from January to March. Yeah, if they have already forgone some of the monthly affair topics, how would they cover them all at a time, revising current affairs holistically? Yes.
Okay, I'll take this. So, what I suggest you should do is like take 12 pages, and on those 12 pages, make a list of the most important topics that are like the most important in the entire year. And look, the thing is that at this point, I expect you that you can differentiate between what is like important from CLAT GK and what is not important from CLAT. And you also need to like make sure that you are not wasting your time in random useless magazines. And I know people who did like 5 magazines. They are doing like this magazine also, and they are doing UPSC magazines also. But at the end of the day, it can be like you can do 100 sources or you can do just one source 100 times. So I would have gone with the latter only. So make a list today, do one thing. Tomorrow is Sunday. Make a list of all the sources which you are going to read, and you should do like nothing beyond those sources. That can include like the magazines and your handouts. And I think that's supposed to be it. And then you sit down and make what you think is the most important topics from each month. Like January, what was the most important topic? And then August and June, like August is going on right now. So make a list of most important topics. I suppose in 1 month, there are an average of around 25, 30 topics which are like extremely important. So at the end, you should have around, if I'm not wrong, you should have around 600, six something topics which are important, and that's a pretty limited value if you are going through GK point of view. So make a list of all the important topics and then go through the handout and find ki in which month this topic was taught to me, and then you revise. So instead of like doing a blind revision ki ha, today I'm picking up like June month magazine and I'm just reading it blindly, you should do like a structured revision that okay, today I'm revising like 7 topics from the month of June, and today I'm revising the most. Today I'm having a revision of the environmental GK. Today I'm having a revision of like the space wala, all the ISRO and all. Today I'm having a revision of all the defense sector GK that there is. I'm sure you would have special classes on those. So do that instead of doing blind revision. And another thing, lastly, you should make like daily, monthly, and weekly goals कि हाँ at the end of this week I would have completed with space revision, environmental revision, and revision of let's say March month. At the end of today, I would have completed this revision and this revision, and then you take all those goals and write those goals down. One miscellaneous thing I would like to tell is that during my last 90 days, what I did was I bought a chart paper and divided that chart paper into 90 small sections. I put that on my wall and I wrote everything that I did daily. So let's say today's 30th August. So 30th August ko I did like 5 sections. I did 2 DI sets. I did the revision of May month's GK. So just write down on that chart paper so that there is like accountability कि हाँ मैं पढ़ाई कर रहा हूँ, and there is like efforts. So you can do that.
Okay. It sometimes happens when you write the mocks, or might have happened in the actual CLAT exam as well, that all of a sudden you find one of these section very, very difficult. So how did you maintain your calm in that section, Vatsal?
This actually happened with me in the CLAT exam as well, where I ended up like quant in my year was very difficult. So what I did was I spent like around 15 to 20 minutes there, and that like finally it got me just 1.25 marks. So that was very crucial time that was spent there. And what I noticed later on was that I had 100% accuracy in the legal section. Like I had attempted, like at that time there used to be 35 questions in the legal section, and I had attempted 30 questions and all of them were correct. So if I had just attempted 5 more questions there instead of wasting my time in that section, I could have probably scored 5 marks more and probably would have gotten into NLS, but I did not. So I mean, what I think here is that you have to take the decision where you have to cut it off, where you have to like stop that section then and there itself, or you have to move to some other section. You have to consider all the pros and cons. We always have this inherent tendency of like completing everything, trying to finish all the questions, but that is not what CLAT is about. It's not about 150 attempts. It is about having a very like a better accuracy as best as it is possible to do.
Okay, great. So, what would be an ideal score, your best score for now, because it is only 90 days away from CLAT and elite. So one of the question is, a student is stuck in the scores of 75 to 80. So what would be the best score for now?
I mean, I can answer that question with any
Yes,
number,
please.
to be honest. But
Hmm.
the thing is, I would personally not prefer to name any figures because, firstly, on a serious note, I think whatever score you have right now, it could be better, right? If you have a score between 60 to 70, it could be 80 to 90. If you have 80 to 90, it could be 100 plus, right? So it could be better. So I would not name any figures. And secondly, I don't remember what score I had during that time. So I won't be a very good judge to answer that question. If any of the others could, I'm really sorry.
Okay, let me come up with the answer for this question. देखो, any score which is you are scoring now if you feel after the analysis that there was a scope of scoring better, let's say by 10 marks or 15 marks, that means you're not doing good. So scope of scoring more means you actually committed a mistake which was simply avoidable. Maybe some simple mistakes of not going through the lines very carefully, maybe avoiding the words like not, once, only, never, some extreme words like, in reading sections like CR in English. Yes, some simple calculation errors. या फिर आपने उन questions को छोड़ दिया. You left on those passages or questions which would have been easily solvable, and you actually invested your time in some other areas. So once you are able to gauge out during the analysis कि ठीक है, this was something wherein I could have scored 5 more, I could have scored 7 more, then you should realize that scope of improvement is always there. So what is the best score for now? No, whatever you are scoring, always take a target of scoring more than that in the next mock. So the best score would be the score wherein you feel after the analysis that you didn't have any scope of scoring more what you have scored. So that would be the best score. The day you achieve this, let me know. Right? Then, coming to the next question of
Hello, 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 hello.
Um, okay, so sir is having some technical problems. The question is, how did AI help in your preparation? Would any of you like to answer?
Yeah, I did not have AI when I gave
Oh,
class.
Yes, we didn't have
oh.
ChatGPT when we were preparing.
So okay, I'll answer that considering no other options. So as it goes for AI, it's a very useful tool when it could actually be of help. So the thing is, with AI, something that I actually used for practicing it was asking it for more questions, because there were times when I didn't get the required score, or I wasn't able to understand the passage, and sometimes when I wasn't able to understand what the reasoning should have been for a particular passage, and even when I wasn't satisfied with the reasoning that I got from my mentors, or from the teachers. So that was when I moved to AI for help. So that was something that helped me. I would give it the paragraph and I would ask it to explain it to me, and then I would reattempt the questions in order to understand where I went wrong with the reasoning, and then I was able to solve. Apart from that, there could be a plethora of things where you could actually use AI in your practice, considering it's a reading based text. You could definitely give it prompts and ask it to circulate questions for you. With GK, you can give it a topic and ask it to quiz you on it. With maths, once again, you could ask it for tricks, mnemonics for GK. Apart from that, for maths, you could ask it for questions based on the things that you have read or covered during that particular period of time. So yeah, AI has a lot of uses, and I'm pretty sure even more than me, you would be up to terms with it. So yeah, you could use it in a plethora of ways. You could experiment, and I believe it is something a very helpful tool.
Yeah, but I would tell you one thing. I would suggest you one thing. Don't just come up with, any kind of reasoning based on AI. You can take the help of AI for understanding the passages, the crux of the passage, the intent of the line which the author wants to give you. That might be interpreted correctly by the AI, right? But then depending on it for the, getting the explanations of the correct answer, it can justify any option if you want, right? So better just get an idea what the passage want to say if you're not able to understand the crux of the passage, but don't try to understand the logic behind the question's answers. That is what I would strictly recommend. Avoid doing that, right? Then, so there is a question that how can we practice more passages, because The materials they have received is questions. They are based on principal facts based questions. But then I'll take up this question. You have the workbooks with you. You will get the RBS. So those books have passages based questions, Sakshi. So you can always go with the workbook questions. Legal reasoning, you have workbook wherein 50 passages are there. Then you will have your RBS material. Again, there are passages. Then you have the mocks with you. Again, reattempt the passages which you have already attempted before. So this is the strategy to be taken for practicing the passages more and more, right? Uh, then one of our student is saying that, sir, very, very insightful and very phenomenal speakers. You have, asked them to be on the board, and they have really uh, helped us a lot taking insights from them. At the same time, he's saying that even I would like to be a part of this panel member the next year and guiding the new audience. So this is something which these students have taken the inspiration from you people. I appreciate the time you people have taken out and answered the questions of so many students and queries they are going through, the dilemma they are going through right now. Because at one point of time, you were also at the same stage too. Yes, Chaitanya, you can ask your question. You have raised your hand. Padafat.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Yeah.
Sir, I have more of a request for the head office. Like now, only 90 days are left, so I urge the institute to conduct more of all India level mocks, so we can get an actual reality check for the rankings. As CLAT is more of a ranking based exam. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. All right. Your suggestion is accepted, and definitely I'll recommend to the head office for the same. Yeah. Thank you. So let's finish it off because the questions will go on and we may keep on answering the questions. So probably we can have some more sessions in the coming time regarding the same. So I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to all of you who took out time from your schedule, because you people are in the college right now, maybe busy some kind of submissions and projects and classes and all. Thank you so much for being on board with us and helping the students, this year students, to get a strategy insights on how to come up with their weak areas, overcome their weak areas, and strategize for the last 90 days. Thank you so much, Bhumi, Madhav, and Vatsal.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Any last thing you would like to say?
So there's one thing that even like the prompt that you received, even I remember attending one of these sessions where I was listening to some students from NLS talking about how they did it. So I think that you can also make it just be true to your preparation. I guess that's all that it takes.
Okay.
And
Yes.
I would, yeah,
Bhumi,
I would,
please continue.
I would suggest all the best to all of you. I hope you all excel. And if you have any more questions, I could drop my mail in the chat box, so you could reach out.
Yes, I would wish you all the best. Just remember one thing, that this exam is not bigger than your mental health. Ki if you get less marks, I'll stop studying and I'll like not do what I'm meant to do. So even just remember one thing, ki marks and all these are very temporary things. Right now, I have faith that a person who is getting like 40, 50 marks, even he can like work and get 90 marks, even 100 marks till I've seen such cases. Like I've seen cases where like people get like 100 marks and then they reduce their score, and people who get like 40, 50, even 30 marks, they are here in NLS with me because they're like worked on themselves during the last 3 months. So don't feel like feared just because of your marks. Marks is just a part of your preparation. It does not define like what sort of human being you are. You just have to like, the moral of the story is that you have to analyze the mock no matter तुम्हारे अच्छे मार्क्स आ रहे हैं तुम्हारे बुरे मार्क्स आ रहे हैं एनीथिंग. एंड सो यस, मार्क्स इज जस्ट डे ऑफ अ रूल कि आज मेरा दिन अच्छा था, मार्क्स अच्छे आ गए. So don't be like sad just because you are getting low marks. And yes, that's it. And best of luck.
All right. So I would conclude this entire webinar with one quote, that confidence and hard work is the medicine to kill the disease called problems. है ना? So ये जो है called failure. So ऐसा नहीं है कि if you are scoring less in one of the mocks, then you lose up your confidence, या फिर you stop making the hard work which is required. Just keep on doing your hard work, giving your best efforts, keep that confidence that you can score, and I believe that you can definitely kill the disease which is called as failure. You can definitely kill this disease which you call it is a demotivating and all. Always remember that problem is common. जैसे आप सबके लिए मॉक्स कॉमन है, आप सबके लिए क्लैट का एग्जाम कॉमन है. इट्स द एटीट्यूड विच यू डेवलप विच विल क्रिएट द डिफरेंस. लाइक दिस toppers in front of you, they created a difference for them. So thank you so much everyone for being with us. I'll end the class here. I mean, end the session here, webinar here with all of this, and hoping for the best for all of you. I'm sure that all of you will definitely come out with some flying colors, and at the end of the day, you would definitely come out with, getting a seat in your desired NLU. So all the very best. We'll keep coming with some more webinars and sessions in the near future.